What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. And today I'm going to be talking about another one of my most anticipated movies of this year, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. So Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, it's the 7th film in the Mission Impossible film franchise, once again written and directed by Christopher McQuarrie, who did all the Mission Impossible films from Rogue Nation all the way up to Dead Reckoning Part 1, and he's doing Dead Reckoning Part 2, and once again stars Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt. And really quick before I go on with the rest of the video, I just want to quickly apologize for not putting out as much videos as I'd hoped to. I know I had a set goal and plan that I wanted to do with this channel earlier this year, and I was starting to do a lot more videos, but recently I haven't been doing as much videos as I hoped to, and that's because I'm kind of going through something that this past month I've been kind of going through something that's really been taking a toll on me emotionally and mentally. I'm not really going to get into the details, but it's something over this past month that really I haven't been handling all that well, and I haven't been in the right headset to do videos I wasn't even in the right headset to do my Indiana Jones video, the Dial of Destiny reviews, but I powered through those. But recently I just haven't been handling what's been going on very well, and just wasn't fully in that right headset. But I really wanted to see Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, and I really wanted to do a video for it because I am such a big fan of this franchise, and I'm hoping that forcing myself to do videos will kind of get me out of this slump. But mainly because I love this franchise and I really, really wanted to do a video for this movie. I've done some Mission Impossible videos in this channel before, but I haven't really gone in depth all that much with the films. I was planning on doing individual reviews before this movie came out, and I still might do them before Part 2 comes out. But basically, like, I talk about this franchise a lot with my friends. My friends sometimes get kind of irritated with how much I talk about this franchise, but I just can't help it. I love this film series so much. Each entry has gotten better and better, in my opinion. And when Fallout came out in 2018, I was just absolutely blown away with that movie. I was in shock on how great it was, and I'm actually still surprised how well that film holds up. It's gone on to be one of my favorite action movies of all time. I've watched that movie tons of times since it's been in theaters. I've watched it when I'm in great moods, when I'm in bad moods, when I'm sick, when I'm just kind of feeling out of it. I watched it in a hotel room with my parents a couple of years ago. I watched it on an airplane. I can watch that movie whenever, whatever I feel like. It just still holds up incredibly well. So Dead Reckoning Part 1 for me had a lot to live up to, and thankfully it does. Dead Reckoning Part 1 is quite possibly so far the best film I've seen so far this year. I mean, I'm just surprised on how much the Mission Impossible films just keep getting better and better with each entry. The first 3 movies I can kind of see people not being huge fans of, and you know what, fair enough. Compared to the later movies, those films seem a little bit smaller scale, I guess. But ever since Ghost Protocol, it kind of soft rebooted the franchise in a way, even though it didn't really need to. And ever since then, like, each entry has been bigger and with bigger stakes, greater characters. It focuses a lot more on the team aspect of Mission Impossible, and Dead Reckoning Part 1 continues that with flying colors. Something that I'm happy to say is that Dead Reckoning Part 1, I think for me, has the greater stakes of Mission Impossible. Like, I think the stakes for this film are much higher than the previous film and even Rogue Nation. And, you know, that's saying a lot. They keep pushing the story on threats and how serious and how world-threatening that they can make these plots, and they just keep working more and more as the film goes on. And the filmmakers know they have to do that because if you don't care about the threat, the stakes, the plots on what's going on, then the action and the characters aren't going to leave as much impact. And thankfully they nail down the story so well in this, because all the new characters and past characters and all the action in this film, it felt more investing. It felt more emotionally driven too. I loved all the new characters in this film. They worked really great off of each other. They worked very well in this franchise. My favorite being Haley Atwell's character. She is absolutely great in this movie. I loved her character. I love her as an actress. I've seen her in other stuff besides Peggy Carter in the Marvel movies, and every time I see her in a movie that's not Marvel, she just kills it. She kills it in the Marvel movies too, but I'm saying, like, other than Marvel, she's proven herself to be a very talented actress, and she delivers a great performance here. They give her a character arc that is a little surprising. I did not think they were going to go with what they did with her character, but it worked so well, and she has such great chemistry with Tom Cruise and the other IMF characters. I'm really hoping she comes back for Dead Reckoning Part 2, and I hope she continues on later on in the franchise. Because a really small thing that kind of bothers me about the Mission Impossible series is that when a certain actor doesn't come back for the next entry, they tend to not explain what happened to them. For instance, I really liked Paula Patton's character in Ghost Protocol. She didn't come back for Rogue Nation, and there was no reason why. Same thing with Jeremy Renner. He was in Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation, and I really started to love his character, but then he didn't come back for Fallout, and unfortunately he's not in this movie. So they tend to do that, and they don't really explain why. But for Hayley Atwell, I really hope she comes back for later entries. She works great in this film and with the IMF regulars. Speaking of the IMF regulars, the ones that return, they're all great too. Simon Pegg, Rebecca Ferguson, Ving Rhames, they're all great. They have a lot to do in this film. They focus a lot on them and their characters, which was really great to see. And of course, Tom Cruise. We all know Tom Cruise is gonna deliver a great performance in this film. Ethan Hunt is his character, and he knows by now what's best for his character and what's best for the series for his character. So performance-wise, he's great. Stunt-wise, oh my god, like, I just can't believe they pulled off the stuff that they pulled off in this film. I know they were showing a lot about the motorcycle jump, and they even showed promotional stuff on how they filmed it in theaters when I saw John Wick 4. So obviously that stunt is incredible, and it was really great to see it fully executed on the big screen. But the train sequence towards the end of the film, to me, that's the highlight of the movie. That sequence is just nonstop, and it is a perfect ending to this film, and it might even go down as the best sequence in any of the Mission Impossible movies. They built that train for real, and they really drove it off a bridge, a broken bridge. I'm just like in shock on the stuff that they do for these films, and not just the technical aspects of how they did it and how they filmed it practically, but how it all works into the story. Everything just fits together so perfectly. Like when I was watching the promotional stuff for the motorcycle jump, I was like, why, like, what is the purpose of Tom Cruise going off a mountaintop on a motorcycle and then parachuting into like this pit? Like, what is the purpose of that? What does that have to do with the story? And as the movie was going along, when he got to that point, I remember looking at my mom and saying, that's why he has to do it. That is great. And I'm not going to spoil it, but it worked so well into the story. So it makes for a great sequence to watch on its own, but it's incorporated into the film very well also. And that is something that is very commendable, because you can have great action in a movie, but if it's not incorporated well into the story, or if you just don't care about the story, then like I said earlier, the action and the characters, they're not going to mean anything to you. And that's something that the Mission Impossible movies do very well, especially the later ones. They make you care about the plot first and the characters, so then when all this awesome stuff happens, it leaves an impact with you. And that's something that I've noticed action movies are starting to do a little bit more, because there was a time period when action movies, like, they just didn't care about their plot. They make like the most basic plot imaginable, and it took a back seat to the action, and by the time it was over, you're like, well, it had some good action, but I don't really remember the rest of it. And thankfully that's not the case with the Mission Impossible movies. I can see some people being a little bothered by the runtime of this movie. It's like 2 hours and 45 minutes long. Didn't bother me all that much. I guess there were a couple sequences where I'm like, it's still going just a tad bit too long, but honestly, I don't think I can picture this movie done a certain way, either trimmed runtime or scenes placed differently here and there. I think they did the best job they could with this film. I know recently there's been talks, I actually just saw this on Facebook earlier today before I'm filming this video, of a 4-hour long director's cut of this film, because I also heard that the train sequence was originally its first cut like an hour and a half long, which that just sounds really cool to me. And while that would be cool to see if they release a director's cut on Blu-ray or something, it's one of those things where I don't think it's necessary, because Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie, they are a duo in Hollywood right now that I think is unmatched when it comes to action and filmmaking in general. So if this is the best that they think it is for the movie, this 2-hour and 45-minute cut of the movie, then that's enough. That's way more than enough. A 4-hour director's cut would be cool to see. A longer train sequence would be cool to see. But I don't think it's necessary for this movie. And the ending of the movie, without getting into spoilers, very satisfying. It is a very satisfying story, because when you see a part 1 in a movie title, you tend to think, oh, I'm just going to be left with this big cliffhanger ending and I'm going to be pissed off because I got to wait till this one. Not necessarily this movie. I mean, you could argue it is sort of a cliffhanger, but what this film does well with its part 1 aspect, it gives you one complete story. A beginning that's very satisfying and an ending that's very satisfying. And then it sets up a little bit here and there throughout the film what's going to happen or what you could expect to see in part 2. So you're not leaving the theater mad like, oh, now I got to wait for part 2. Part 1 wasn't satisfying enough. No, part 1 of Dead Reckoning is very satisfying. So you're not left mad that you have to wait to see part 2 now. They made sure they gave you a complete story for part 1, so when part 2 comes out, you get that complete story, you put 2 and 2 together, and it's going to be like this 5-hour long, however long it's going to be, epic story for Mission Impossible. So props on them also for making a part 1 that's not going to leave you pissed off when you leave the theater that now you got to wait to see the rest of it. You get a complete story with this and an ending that I thought was, like I said, very, very satisfying. So overall, in the end, Dead Reckoning Part 1 was everything I hoped it would be. It didn't quite top Fallout for me. I think Fallout is still the best film, but it's like a hair off from Fallout. Dead Reckoning Part 1 delivered everything on a great Mission Impossible movie and a great action movie. I love the movie so much. I'm actually excited to see it again. I hope to see it again really soon and see this movie in IMAX. Actually take the time and spend a little bit of extra money to go see it on the biggest screen with the loudest sound. It really adds to the experience. By the time the movie was over, I felt like I needed a nap. It was just, and I mean that in the best way possible. I felt like I needed a nap. Everything was just so exciting and so investing. It really added to the experience. So obviously I recommend Dead Reckoning Part 1. If you haven't gone into these movies yet, then now's a great time to get into it. With the writer and actor strike going on, it's probably going to be a little bit longer before we get Part 2. So definitely start getting into this franchise if you haven't yet and you've been wanting to. They're making great stuff with these movies, and I'm glad to see filmmakers like Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie actually taking time with their stories and with their budgets and giving you a real theater-going experience. And I would say Dead Reckoning Part 1 is Oscar-worthy. I can't imagine giving it anything less than Oscar-worthy. Like I said, it did everything I wanted it to. It did everything right, and it did a great job giving you a satisfying movie for a Part 1 while still getting you excited to see Part 2. So guys, that's my review for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Just like always, let me know what you thought about the film in the comment section below if you've seen it. And just like always, guys, thank you again so much for watching. Again, I do apologize for lacking, or slacking, I guess you would say, on videos lately. I'm not going to get into it, but I've been going through some stuff this past month, so hopefully if I kind of make myself do more videos, it'll kind of help me get out of this slump emotionally and mentally. So thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to like and share it. Subscribe right here if you haven't already. And until next time, guys, take care.